I never pronounce them correctly. I think they're medjool dates, they're eating dates, they're beautiful, but make sure you take the pips out. And what I always do is put the dates on one side, the pips on the other, and count them, so I know I've got 12 dates and 12 pips, because you don't want someone biting down on one of these date pips. So in my processor, I've got a cup of almonds, a cup of macadamians, and a cup of walnuts. And I'm going to process those around, give them a little bit of a blitz first, and then add the dates. And that's your dates and your nuts all mixed together, ready for your brownie mix. Take them out, put them in a bowl. 2 organic free-range eggs. There you go, there's your eggs. And 2 teaspoons of natural vanilla. What I want you to do is really beat those eggs. So you don't want any little bits in the eggs. You want them well beaten. So I'm making my coconut cream mixture, which I'm going to add to my brownie, which is going to give it a beautiful coconut, rich, creamy taste. The natural dried coconut flakes, and I'm adding into that natural 100% coconut milk. No added sugars, no fats, just pure coconut milk and just the pure coconut crisp. And what I'm going to do is just blend them down in the mixer so it becomes a nice creamy texture. So I've sifted the wholemeal flour and a teaspoon of baking soda, and I've mixed that in with the rest of my dry ingredients, which are my nuts and my dates, and they're all sitting there ready. So now I've got my chocolate, and I'm using a 90% dark organic chocolate. Beautiful chocolate. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it up. You can chop it up with a knife, or you can just give it a rough mix in a processor. I'm going to use a processor because it's easier, just to give it a rough chop up. You want it in bits. You can buy the little coconut, not the coconut, you can buy the little chocolate buttons, but I prefer to do this. So, always switch your power on. A little bit more. And there you have it. So, just break it up so you've got your chocolate broken up. That's another dry ingredient, so you're going to add your dry ingredients into that. Might be a few bits that aren't broken up enough, just break them up, so all your bits. It's going to melt, but you want it just nice bits. So I've combined the eggs, which I beat by hand, vanilla, the coconut milk and stevia, and I'm using 2 teaspoons of stevia into that. So that's your wet mix. Now, the next process will be to combine the wet and dry, but we're going to add some cocoa powder to that and a shot of espresso coffee. Just letting that cool down a little bit first, so don't put it straight in, allow it to cool down. So I've got 2/3 of a cup of organic ground cacao or chocolate powder, and I'm adding that to my dry mix. So I've just about got all my dry ingredients ready to go, and I'm giving them another stir. Now I'm going to add my espresso coffee, which is cooled down. Add that to my wet mix, which of course has got my coconut milk and my eggs. Add it all together, give it a blend up again, a little bit of a mix, and then we're going to add that to the dry mix. Quick tip, with your baking paper, I always give it a scrunch up and wet it, give it a little squeeze out before I line, and just follow me this way, that's beautiful, before I line the dish that I'm going to put it in. That gives a bit more moisture, stops the sticking process, and then I'm going to pour my mixture into this in a moment. So I've added the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, and now we're mixing it all around, and this is going to be our brownie mix ready to be baked. Make sure you give it a good mix, and you don't want it too sloppy. It's going to absorb some of the water, but you want it to this texture, so it's that smoother texture. So it still gets moist. Make sure all the dry ingredients scoop from the bottom, making sure that everything's mixed, because you don't want to have something dry cut into it. You've got a piece of dry bit that you haven't mixed through. So give it a good mix around, and I think we're nearly done. And that's about the right consistency. You can see that that's nice and solid. So, you remember I wetted my baking paper. That's going to keep the moisture in and stop anything sticking. And then we're going to add a mix into this baking dish. And all these sizes and amounts will be on the ingredients listing. And then smoothing this down to the edges with a nice spoon. And then we're going to stick it in an oven at about 160 centigrade, fan forced oven. And we're going to bake all this for about 30 minutes. Making sure it's filled up the dish all the way around. What you can do is trim this with a pair of scissors. So it's up to you. I do it because I'm a bit of a fuss and I don't like seeing all the paper catching on the edge. But you don't have to particularly. So, oven at 160, in your dish, flatten down, in the oven. All we've got to do is wait. So, it's come out of the oven. I took it out of the baking tray. I put it onto a cooling rack. Just let that cool down. Probably needs to cool down. As you can see, the chocolate's still a bit molten. Let it cool down for about 20 minutes and then cut into slices. It will keep wrapped in the fridge for quite a few days, and just enjoy maybe a little bit of yogurt on the side and enjoy it.